Hi, I'm Simon Roderick, the MD of Fram Search, and I'm delighted to be joined today for today's industry insight by Cheryl Weeks from the FSE Group. Cheryl, how are you today?
I'm excellent. Great, thanks. Nice to meet you. Nice to see you this morning.
Very good to see you too. And I'm feeling a little bit more happy and positive because I could think that spring is finally coming, isn't it?
Yes, the sun is shining. It's nice being in the office here. We're based right by a river, so it's a nice place to go for a walk. So yes, it does put you in a good mood.
That's lovely, isn't it? Absolutely. Cheryl, I've got lots of questions for you. Um, I think before I start, if you wouldn't mind, tell people that aren't familiar with the FSE Group a little bit about you guys, if that's okay.
Absolutely, yes. The FSE Group was started in 2002. So we are fund managers for businesses across the UK. So when I joined about 9 years ago, we had funds in the southeast of England and the east of England. Since then, we've gone on to expand and we now have regions in Yorkshire, in the Midlands, in London, in Cornwall, and we're looking at new funds all the time. At the moment, we're looking at new funds possibly in Dorset and in Scotland as well. So the aim of FSE was a not-for-profit organisation. So we were set up to manage those funds on behalf of various areas. So that could be local enterprise partnerships, that could be the British Business Bank or Funding London. But the overall aims of the schemes are to support high growth businesses and help them create jobs and get further funding into the area.
Fantastic. So you're really you've got your finger on the pulse of what's going on in the kind of SME world and things like that. And I understand you've got people on the ground in all those areas that you talked about. Is that right?
Absolutely, yes. So we have investment managers that work in all of the areas. So they go out and they make contact with the banks and the solicitors, accountants, and they will go to networking events and meet businesses day in, day out. So yes, they will be knowing what's going on. We work really closely with the banks. So quite often we're looking at early stage businesses that maybe the bank can't help because they just haven't been trading long enough. So any businesses they're looking at that are looking for funding, then they will speak to us about them. So we have great relationships with all the bank managers in the area.
So really, the FSC group's born from almost like a funding gap that's in the
Yes.
market.
Yeah, and we've seen that funding gap get wider over the last few years. And obviously, the banks have been concentrated on the C-bills and the bounce back loans. So we have seen more businesses that are requiring funding. So I think the key part to get across is really that what the banks will lend you is based on the historic information. We are projection led funders. So we will base our decisions on somebody's projections. So that's why you may have a really sort of early stage business that's just won a new contract or a new client and needs funding for that contract. So yeah, we base our decisions on the forecast going forward.
Yeah, we see that quite a lot with our kind of early stage VC firms that we work with. I mean, obviously that's a real skill in itself, understanding the dynamics of that early stage investment and the winners versus the losers. But you're interesting, I think, as a group, in the sense of I think you provide both equity and debt, don't you?
That's
Which is quite a
correct.
unique offering.
Yeah, not in all of the regions. So the some regions will vary. So we can typically lend from 50,000 right up to 1.5 million, but that depends on location. So some of the bigger funds, for example, Midlands will be able to lend more than we can in the southeast. In the southeast, we can lend or invest up to 500,000. So the debt would be typical 5-year loan with capital and interest, and the equity would be on a match basis. So that's with other private investors or VCs that will come in alongside us.
And sector agnostic?
Yeah, we don't deal with property because there's enough people dealing with property, but yes, sector agnostic. So we deal with all different areas. It's quite interesting. We get to see some really exciting businesses. So everything from kind of food and drink to drones, technology, med tech. So yeah, there's some really exciting businesses
Yeah,
out there.
fabulous. I mean, Fram's based in a business park outside London, which is very unique in our industry, and I love it because we meet people from so many fascinating businesses, real innovators, and I really enjoy that interaction that I have with people from outside my own industry. Cheryl, obviously, because you're doing equity and you're doing debt, and you can help people in different ways. You're obviously very close to what the kind of funding environment is like in the UK. What's your synopsis of what the funding scene is currently like?
There's still funding out there for businesses. So as I say, maybe the banks might not be doing as much new business because they've worked really hard during the pandemic with obviously the C-bills and the bounce back loans. But there's definitely funding out there for businesses. There's some really good news stories. There's some people that have had a really, really good couple of years. So they're looking to continue to grow their business. I think it's all just we work closely with places like the Alternative Business Funding website. So, people can go on there and find out what funding is available for them. But it's really just, talking to that business and seeing what they require. We do get quite a lot of people come to us and they say, I'm not sure whether it should be debt funding or should be equity funding. And it's really what's right for that business at the time. But I definitely still think there's funding available for the right business. It's just about getting your business plan and your information correct and contacting the right people.
I sense it's still pretty positive. And obviously, I'm not as close to it as you are, but I think something you mentioned, people work really hard in the last couple of years. And I almost think there's an element of fatigue within some of the banks that are out there because, people are just exhausted from being what's been a real roller coaster of emotions. And obviously, that's translating to peaks and troughs that we've seen in the business world. How did you get into that world that you're in now? Because it's quite a fascinating role, and it's not something people talk to you about at school. So how did you end up working there, Cheryl?
Well, you'll actually laugh at this really because I didn't know what I wanted to do for my work experience when I was at school. So I actually ended up doing a week's work experience at Lloyd's Bank. Never really thinking much about it. And then I went on to do sort of relationship management in the early part of my career. And then when Royal Bank of Scotland took over NatWest, they were looking for people with relationship management experience, but not necessarily banking experience. So that was quite new. So I went straight into NatWest doing business banking and then went on to Barclays and did corporate banking after that. So yeah, it was an interesting route, but I think I just love dealing with the businesses. There's nothing more satisfying than being able to support those businesses or tell them a good news, tell them their loan's been agreed at on a Friday. It's absolutely brilliant. So yeah, and it's just really enjoyable. No 2 days are the same.
I think a lot of people that end up in some form of service-based industry just love working with people and solving problems. I think it's the theme of some, of the people that I talk to doing these industry insights that they love helping clients, they love solving problems, they're people, but really important, talking about work experience. So I gave a lecture to the University of Westminster, and one of the things that came out there was that how difficult it is to get work experience and internships. And I think that, if businesses can help with that, it's really amazing the impact you can have on people's careers and future chances. So good on the bank for giving that opportunity. One stat I'm very aware of is that I read that PitchBook Data did some great research about funding and founders funding in 2022. And in the US, only 1.9% of funding went to female founders.
Mm.
Is that the same in the UK? Why do you think that is the case if it's so low? I mean, what are your thoughts on it, Cheryl?
That's quite an interesting stat, really, because we actually have quite a lot of female-led businesses, and FSE is a signatory for the Investing in Women Code, which means we actually provide data on gender and actively support female-led businesses. So we provide that data to the British Business Bank, and we actively support those female-led businesses. Funny enough, though, I've actually been to quite a lot of women in business events, and there was lots of discussion about this. And there was a statistic that female-led businesses will wait till they've got everything in their business plan ready and everything in their financial forecast ready, and then they will apply for funding. Whereas a gentleman may look at a business plan and he will have 60% of it ready, but still apply for funding. And that was quite interesting to me. So I think it's just kind of we've done a lot of work on going out and sort of educating people and just saying, if you've got a great idea and a great business plan and you're working on your forecast, and please come and talk to us. Even if you're not 100% ready, we may be able to signpost you to people that can help with that or support you. So as I say, we've got a lot of female-led businesses. I speak for the Southeast, but the whole group, and it's something we passionately believe in. So, when we do our case studies and our marketing, we try and make sure that goes out to the right channels to let people know that, we're very much open for business and here to support them. I think the difference also with us is, people can give us a business plan or forecasts, and then we can work with them on looking at the funding. It's kind of not you sort of submit get your information and it's a yes or no. It's very much a relationship-based business.
We see something similar actually. So um, in my 20 something years in recruitment, I won't say exactly how many, um, male candidates are much, I don't know, better, or is not perhaps not the right word, but they're much more pro putting themselves forward for a role, even if they're not fully qualified.
Yes.
And we've been strong in placing female candidates. So we 51% 2 years ago of our placements were female. That dropped last year, so it's something that we're looking into. But I think the message you're saying is that businesses like yours have to go out there and look for these fantastic female founders and give the right messaging, and the right support, and perhaps it's role models as well. But it's an interesting stat because you know, if you're only funding a very small number of female founded businesses, you're cutting yourself off to an awful lot of great ideas. So
Yeah.
I think it's something that we need to monitor. But as I say, there are some similarities between that confidence we see in the male candidates sometimes versus female candidates is quite interesting. You talk about business plans and how you can help people and how you're very much looking at forecasts and going forwards. There's an awful lot, I think, of misunderstanding or lack of knowledge about how to prepare for funding.
Mm.
What do you have to have in place? How do you engage with banks? How do you engage with angel investors or people like that? What advice would you give to any business that's looking to look for funding for its next phase of growth?
Okay. Well, there's lots of support out there. You have places like the business growth hubs, and you have sort of accountants, places like that. There's a lot of investor readiness courses and lots of online support that you can get. Um, but I would say, focus on your business plan, focus on your management team. The one thing we always say is that we support the management team and then the financials back that up. So it's really, really important to get across who you've got working with you, what their experience is, and talk about that in your business plan. And then just reach out and get support. Ask someone to critique it. Have a look at it. If you're struggling with the financials, then do speak to someone at the Growth Hub or somebody at an accountancy firm will help you with your forecasts. Be realistic as well. We do see people that if they're putting forecasts together, they might think if they go for a lower amount, it's more likely to get agreed. It's really digging deep and seeing what you need for your business. It's just as detrimental not to lend somebody enough if they need a higher amount. So every business plan is different. We've seen really comprehensive business plans that are 60 pages long, and we've seen business plans that are 6 or 8 pages long. There's no right or wrong. It's just about getting across your experience and really focusing on how you got to that point. But reach out and get that support is my real sort of guidance, and really dig deep on the numbers and get somebody to put those together for you.
So you're backing people, really. You're
Oh,
backing management
absolutely.
teams, you're
Yeah.
backing people. And the message I got, there's no right or wrong in terms of the length of the business plan. But I guess there's certain key information points that you'd like in there. So,
Yeah.
forecast, but yeah.
So SWOT analysis is really good to get in there. Have you looked at your competition? What's your competition doing? Debt and equity is a little bit different. So, if you're looking at debt, how are you going to service that loan? And the forecasts are key. If you're looking at equity, then how long's the investment period? What's your exit strategy? Who's likely to acquire your business? What valuation are you looking at? So it's different things. And I get asked a lot, what's better for my business, debt or equity? And I say I can't answer that. We have lots of entrepreneurs where they would prefer some debt in the business to get them to the next stage. They can service that debt, so that's what they'll look at. Or we have people that would like equity investment because they want a slug of money into the business, but not necessarily the stress with the repayments each month. And it's what else can the business bring? So if you're looking at equity investment, it's not just the money. If you've got investors coming in or angels coming in, what experience do they have? Can they open doors for you? Can they support your business? Do they have, I don't know, financial marketing experience that you don't have on the board at the moment? So there's all those things to consider.
And there's people out there willing to help, I think, aren't there? There's a
Yeah.
lot of help out there and a lot of experience. And are you seeing any changes in risk appetite because of interest rates are changing? Obviously the cost of debt is a bit more expensive.
Yeah, I mean, we have worked hard here that we have fixed rate loans now. So it's something that we listen to our clients, and on some of the schemes, we do have fixed rate loans, so they can come and talk to us, and if they want to transfer to a fixed rate. Um, there is a little bit of concern out there, so I think people are more cautious when they're looking at their forecast. If there's some C-bills loans or bounce back loans in there, it's making sure that everything is affordable. But I think if I'm thinking about it, and funny enough, speaking to you this morning, but the main concern out there is staff recruitment and retention. That's what we see most from our businesses that they are struggling with. So that's the real focus. You know, quite often we're looking at funding for those businesses that are to recruit staff or expand. And the key question is, have you got anyone in mind? Who are you thinking of? You know, how do you target those individuals? How do you motivate those individuals? So I would say that's the kind of key area with the businesses that we're dealing with, that you know is getting the right people into the business and getting them to think like the management team, which is quite interesting because you have some really exciting entrepreneurs and it's their baby, it's their passion. So how do they motivate their staff to think like that, you know, like they will? So, you know, that's looking at reward schemes or whether it's share option schemes, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, you can only do it with the good team around you. And actually, on the recruitment side, I think the big thing that's affected people is, there's an awful lot of people retiring early. There's an awful lot of people that unfortunately are long-term sick um, for a whole variety of factors. But I think that's really impacting on people's ability to grow and scale because they can't often get that, get the right people into the business. And that's a challenge. How are you feeling about the economy in general over the next 12 months, Cheryl? Are you mildly optimistic, wildly optimistic, or massively pessimistic, or somewhere in the middle?
Probably somewhere in the middle. I think there's still challenges out there. You know, there's people concerned with, you know, and rightly so, you know, cost of living, utility bills, and things like that. I wouldn't say it's as negative as the press maybe would have you believe. There's still, you know, a really, you know, some really good businesses out there that have had a successful few years and are continuing to do so. We probably see that retail may struggle, continue to struggle a little bit. But you know, as for things like food and drink companies, technology businesses, med tech, they're all doing really well. We're getting a lot of the business. You know, what we're trying to focus on over the last year or two, especially, is when we do a case study, when we lend or invest to a business, is actually getting a follow-up case study. You know, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months later. So when we're speaking to those businesses, we know what's going on. Are they winning the contracts that they aim to win? And most of the time, it is really positive news. Really, you know, the business is going really, really well. But I come back to a strong management team where we've seen, especially in the last few years with the pandemic, it's the strong management teams and the people where they've got some support that have managed to either turn the business around or carry on in difficult times. So that, you know, I come back to that's why we really do look to the management team.
Yeah, I think things are getting better, aren't they? I mean, I think you're right. It's difficult at the moment. There is that cost of living crisis that's hitting particularly certain parts of society very hard. But I think it's getting better. From what I can understand, gas prices are coming down. There's the cost of logistics, I think, was really hurting people, and I think that's
Yes.
coming down quite quickly. And so things are going in the right direction, but it has been difficult. But I think I'm mildly optimistic. Actually, I think you're right. Things are probably never as bad as they make out in the press. But there's still a few headwinds in front of us. Sure, it's been fantastic to talk to you today. Thank you for your time. I'm guessing that if people wanted to contact you or to look at the FSE Group's website, there'll be information there as well that could help them with their journey in terms of raising funds. But thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me today, and hopefully we'll speak soon.
Absolutely. It's brilliant to talk to you, Simon. Thank you so much.
Take care. Cheers, Cheryl.
Thanks.